Hey everyone, Tony here live, 2:30 p.m. It's a Wednesday afternoon. You're watching Innovation Fika. Today from a kind of a rainy Stockholm. I'm actually just back from the US. I've been awake for I don't know how many days now. I just came actually off the plane here this morning, so a bit hoarse, maybe a bit jet lagged, but it's going to be great. As you know, Donny, every Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Innovation Fika, my innovation coffee break, where I get to meet really interesting people and talk about really interesting things for during the world's fastest half an hour. Whoosh. Last week I was in San Francisco and I interviewed Eric and Philip about their new fusion reactor that they're building in Stockholm. They're actually building a fusion reactor in Stockholm, which is really cool. And then this week I have an equally interesting guest. Of course, I always have interesting guests. And so I'm really happy to have her here on the call. And as always, please, everybody online, add your comments in the feed, ask questions, let us know who you are, where you're from, so we can get everybody online as well. That's why we're doing this live. All of the recordings are on YouTube, by the way, 109 episodes after today. And all of my written content is on Medium. And I've also started posting on Instagram as well on a daily basis, just of the everyday stuff. Enough about me. Enough about that. Let's get Nadia on the call here and say hello. Good morning.
Hello, everybody. Good
Good
morning
morning.
for people in the US or afternoon in people in
Yeah,
Europe
I
and
know,
the
but
Far
it's
East.
like, what was it, 8:30 there? You're in like
It's
outside Chicago.
8:30 and it was like crunch time. I just dropped off my kids to school and I'm here to discuss innovation in healthcare with you and your
That's
audience. How
that's
exciting.
wonderful. I mean, and we have Yash. I see. We have Yash here from India, so that should be an evening show. Yash, what time is it there? Are you like 5.5 hours in ahead of me? So let's see, 2:30. That should be seven.
7:30.
No, 8 o'clock. Then, if it's 5.5 hours, they have
Mm-hmm.
these half an hour
Yeah.
things in India.
Mm-hmm. Hi,
So that's
Yash.
there we go. And then we
We
have
also have
Harvey,
Harvey. Good to see
Dallas,
you, Harvey.
Texas, author of ChatGPT and healthcare.
Yes,
I,
he's
I just read the first part. I'm the author of ChatGPT. Oh wow, that's really cool.
That is cool. He has awesome content, by the way. Hi, Harvey.
Yeah, hi Harvey, happy to have you online. Really cool, and I will start following you right away. What Nadia says, Tony does. So that's
Oh,
so
thank
cool.
you. Thanks for your trust.
Anyway, well, welcome to the show, and
Thank you.
let's start as we always do. I always start by asking my guests, who are you and what do you do?
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Nadia Boutaoui. I'm a scientist, academic turned entrepreneur, and I'm a mom in chief. My kids call me um, Chief Entertainment Officer for CEO. I'm like, no. So at home, I'm the chief entertainment officer. Everywhere else, I founded NanoNurse, which is a company developing tools to speed up the process of drug development, get drugs to market faster. And that came from my own experience. So here I am leading a lab in genetic epigenetic of asthma in a world-class institution with top clinicians, and two of my kids had asthma. And I saw firsthand the discoveries that we publish in top journals are not making it to the market fast enough. So that put me on a path to translate discoveries, move them from the lab to the market. And that was during being a faculty at the University of Pittsburgh. Kudos to H2P, to Pittsburgh folks. And and it wasn't enough for me. I did a tech innovation and entrepreneurship certification in the business school. It was barely scratching the surface, so I followed up with an executive MBA in healthcare. And since then, I started NanoNurse. I saw firsthand the challenges that women entrepreneurs face in the
Yeah,
tech and the healthcare space, despite being 80% of the workforce and being in charge of 90% of purchasing decision for health related products and services. Only 2% of the money goes to women founders in
yeah,
the healthcare and tech space. So there is a huge missed opportunity there that I'm
of
on a
course.
mission to empower them so they can bring solutions to the market to solve 50%
Yeah,
problems for 50% of the population.
yeah. And Fantastic. And we're going to be talking both about the data-driven insights in healthcare, but we'll also be talking about the uh, the entrepreneurship course that you've taken as well. You know, the not a pivot, but I said an add-on that you've taken as well in your career. And I
Hmm.
will also echo Harvey here because I mean, Harvey actually said as well here that thank you, Nadia. I follow your great content that we're doing. And I
Thank
can just
you.
agree with them. I think you're doing fantastic job on LinkedIn as well, Nadia.
Thank
So
you.
anybody watching, make sure to follow Nadia on LinkedIn. It's really, really good
Thank you.
content all the way through. So make sure to follow Nadia, everyone as well.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
let's jump straight into the subject today. I mean, we had this heading which was like data-driven insights.
Hmm.
So, and then I'm not going to say it's an oxymoron saying that data-driven insights in healthcare because it's it's kind of a one could think it's kind of a conservative business that might not be up to date with at least on ChatGPT and I know we have a
Yeah.
Harvey here then, but
Hmm.
and data driven. But how do you see those two things coming together? How do you if you were to talk about data driven insights in healthcare, what
Hmm.
would you sort of start? Where would you start talking about that?
I would say it's the use of data analytics tools to identify both patterns, trends, and that can improve the patient outcome. It can also streamline the clinical workflows. And on the drug development side, it can optimize drug development and also reduce cost. So by combining data analytics tools, and for the audience who's not familiar with the different tools available, there are four types of analytics tools. You can have the descriptive, what
Right.
we
Yeah.
refer to as, the summaries, the historical data, and so on. There's also the diagnostic analysis, which is used to diagnose something that happened in the past. There's the predictive, that's where we look for trends based on historical data. And the more advanced ones are the prescriptive. That's where you prescribe something, you have an action item that should be done in the future based on data from the past and the current data. So you have these four levels. Each one of them is powerful. When you combine them, it can amplify your results and growth. So, examples of in the healthcare space, for example, of analytics, it could be predicting like the risk of a certain population for certain diseases. Could be for like what's your likelihood to develop diabetes or heart disease. It could be in the imaging side. You can use AI to analyze images more accurately than the human eye or the trained professional to predict from CT scans, let's say for cancer or breast cancer and so on. So it's really powerful in that sense. In the drug discovery, as of last year, there was a big uh, change in the prediction of drug discovery. It's the AlphaFold database. It's a collaboration between the European Bioinformatics Institute and DeepMind. And what they did, they used AI system to predict the protein 3D structure based on the amino acid, which is the building blocks of proteins. And they did that in a very short time. And nowadays we have access to 98.5 of the proteins in humans. It used to take years with traditional methods to predict the 3D structure. Now it was done in few months. Another example of advanced analytics, for instance, is the partnership between Regeneron Pharmaceutical and Geisinger Health System. So, in that particular health system, which is in central PA, Pennsylvania, in the US, they have multi generational people that live in the same area, and there wasn't much movement. So, from a genetic standpoint, you can have data from multi generations and map complex diseases. And what Geisinger did from the 90s, they saw the potential of biobanking. And anybody that comes through their health system, and they are the main one in the area, they would biobank the leftover blood from the labs. Or if somebody goes to surgery, they can biobank portion of their tissues. They didn't do anything with that for years, and they have electronic medical record to map to those patients. So in 2014, they had this agreement with Regeneron Pharmaceuticals to sequence 250,000 patients. And they also have, they can map out to different diseases and go multi
Yeah.
generations. With that, they were able to discover so many druggable targets and to improve personalized medicine for that particular population. So you can see by combining different tools and predictive analytics on a large scale data sets, there is so much power to improving the healthcare outcomes and also for drug development.
Yeah. But you said it was descriptive, predictive, and what was the fourth one there? It was the
There is the first one is the descriptive. That's the basic one. When we think statistics, what is the distribution, what's the mean,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. But that was the one that tells me what I should be doing
That's
instead.
the
What's that one called?
prescriptive. That's when you
Prescriptive.
have
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
prediction
exactly.
and also an
Yeah,
action item tied to it. Let
yeah.
me give you an
Because
example from our own research in asthma. So we were interested in what makes the Puerto Rican population at a much higher risk for asthma compared to other populations in the US. So we did whole genome screening for that, including genomics, epigenetics. We also did gene expression. And the epigenetics is like no changes in the genome code in the code, but there is changes in the phenotype. So we used the nasal samples to for the epigenetic screens, and we had 30 markers that were highly predictive of which kids will get asthma in the future. Not only that, those 30 markers, we replicated them in African Americans population and in white population with over 80% accuracy. Why is that important? If you are a healthcare system, and we've seen the burden of asthma and respiratory diseases over the past 2 years, so if you can predict that a kid can be flagged that they may need an emergency room visit in the coming 6 months or 12 months, you can prescribe that this particular patient, they may need an extra visit with their primary care physician or a specialist before they get to worse and need an emergency room visit. And why is that important? The most expensive unit in a hospital system is the emergency room. And you would want your patient to be taken care of before they get worse and they need that emergency visit.
exactly. Yeah, I mean that's why again. I mean that's why we call it healthcare, not sick care. I mean it's no, we don't, but it's kind of it should be. It should be. I mean with the correct treatment, we shouldn't be
It
have to
sh-
become even as sick as
exactly.
we
It
do
should be
actually.
preventive, not
Exactly.
intervention,
Yeah.
like
I
prevention.
mean, I have a really, I mean, this is like a really high level of healthcare, but I have a really stupid example from everyday life on the descriptive, predictive, and not the other thing. Because look, every single fitness tracker that people have on their
Yeah,
wrists, it tells them what they've done. It never tells them what they should be
should be
doing.
doing.
It doesn't say, "Hey, Donny, it seems that you haven't slept so well tonight. Maybe you should take it easy." Or it doesn't. It's a really one way kind of a stupid
Yeah,
old data thing. Whereas one would just assume that with all of the data that my Apple Watch has got about me, it should
yeah,
start being able to tell me what I should be doing instead, which is kind of the same kind of thing that we're talking about here when we can actually use tools to both learn but also predict and also prescribe as well.
exactly, exactly. And one of the best data analytics company out there is Amazon. They're
Yeah,
even at a point that they know you better than you know yourself. And they
oh yeah,
have pilots where they can ship you things that they think you may need in the future. And they know there's a very high chance that you're going to keep that. So
yeah.
don't be surprised if you get packages from Amazon in the future at your doorstep that you didn't
Yeah.
order.
Actually, a little bit right before you order them, you go sort of, I think I'm going to order a, oh, it's here.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
another
I
example
mean,
that always comes to mind, we there for all the sports fan out there, when your favorite player is benched, the chances are there is a predictive model that tells them when they should play, how they should
yeah,
play, and when they need to rest for how long, so they can stay at their peak performance.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, we could probably, I mean, we could spend the rest of the day talking about this, but I mean, just
Charlotte.
moving. But I knew we need to push on here because, but I just want to ask you though, this sounds to a layman like myself, like, wow, this sounds really, really advanced. But how can we get into this? If anybody out there, it may in healthcare as well, or is maybe studying, maybe at university, would like to start working with what with data and data-driven insights in healthcare. Where do we start? I know that you've got like I know we have Nadia's top 3 tips for data-driven insights here as well.
Yeah.
Let's just run through those, shall we? Tip number
Abs-
one: use accurate and up-to-date data. Could you just elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, I think if I go back to the healthcare, because this is about healthcare, make sure that your EHR, electronic medical records, for instance, are up to date, that they're not siloed. For instance, the US healthcare system is very fragmented, and each healthcare system has their own data, and there is no crosstalk between these silos. And insurance companies, they are seeing the potential for data, combining data across different health systems so they can have access to larger data sets that is vetted. A lot of effort actually in data analytics is towards data cleaning and vetting that data, because you put garbage in, you get garbage out. So the
Of course,
first step is to have accurate data, up to date, because if it is older, the chances are for use it for predictions is less
of
quality
course.
as compared to up to date data.
Yeah, indeed. Very good. And then you have use the right tools and visualization as well. Number two.
Yes, yeah, I think of data as a powerful backbone for storytelling. A lot of people are scared of data, but if you combine that and use it as a with the right visualization, think of the easiest example I can share is think of Legos. When you have like big data sets, it's almost like the all the pieces of the Legos together. And then you can sort those Legos by color, bin them, and then by shape, and so on. Then you don't need to use all of your data for analysis because it's going to use a lot of power. You get samples for what you want that represent the data set that you want to extrapolate insights from. And there is a very good likelihood that it's representative of your big data. Then after that, you can build. Let's say you build a house with those Legos, and you can even build something actionable with that. So think of it as steps that can tell a story, but the key is to ask the right questions
Yeah,
and use the right
indeed.
fields to extrapolate data from.
That's one of the best. That's one of the best explanations of how to use data I've ever heard. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much. And
You're
number
welcome.
three, then of course, hire the right people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think hiring, why is this very, very important? With predictions, you can you by hiring the right people, it's not just the skill set, but make sure you have diversity within the people analyzing your data to avoid biases. An example, for instance, with imaging, there are a lot of predictive imaging software that can predict which cells can turn into cancer, skin cells, skin lesions. And they found that those tools were not as good for African Americans because they were trained on a data set that's mainly white. There is some biases and groupthink if you are to use to not to incorporate the right diversity
Of course.
even within your programming team. Another example, in healthcare there were a couple who are both physicians and they applied for a credit card. They both have the same income, comparable income. It was the credit card by Apple with another large bank. And when they got their credit back, she had 20% less credit worthiness compared to her husband. That's an example of bias within the data set that
Indeed.
is not adjusted. So having those, don't rely 100% on the predictive models. Have a human that checks, you know,
Yeah.
for biases and so on.
But and again, I mean, this is something we could spend the rest of the day talking about, right? Because I'm so interested in unconscious bias, but
Mhm.
also conscious bias. And when we've had all of this talk about fake news the past 5 years. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been talking about fake data because, as you say, if you have bad data in, if you corrupt data in, you get corrupt results out.
Yeah.
But with all of these sensors in all of the Internet of Things and in healthcare, all of the data coming in, if people in the edge start corrupting the data sets that come into the machines,
Mhm.
and so forth and so forth and so forth. But that's a separate talk, I
Maybe we
think.
should
I
have a
don't know.
separate show about that.
Yeah, we should do a separate show on that one. We have. Oh wow! I'm looking at the time here as well because we need to get the half an hour and everything like that. But I know though that you're very very much into supporting females in entrepreneurship as well. I know that is one of your really big
Hmm.
passions as well. So
Yeah.
tell you what, let's run through Nadia's top 3 tips for women entrepreneurs as well because this is important. We cannot end without this as well. This is important. I'll just let you do this as well. So number one, remain self-motivated. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to being a woman entrepreneur or a professional when you are the minority in that area, that self motivation will keep you going because you're not relying on external inputs to keep you going. Because the chances are, if I'm applying, let's say, for grants, and I know that 2% on average get VC money, I'm not going to let that external pressure or external statistics stop me from going. I also it helps me prioritize progress over perfection to keep going, and that's one thing that I had to do a lot of adjustment moving from academic setting and research setting where we have a really high standard for what passes your research and results, to it's okay to take decisions with 51% of the information, learn from it and keep moving. So that's the one, having that confidence and self motivation to keep going and making the best decision you can, not with 100% information, is important in entrepreneurship.
Indeed. And number two, then be persistent, as you already sort of talking about.
Yeah, I think persistence is what makes the and consistency is what makes, or the top 10% that make it versus not. A lot of people, they are, they tell you, which I think it's an overrated advice, follow your passion. Well, make sure you're solving a big enough problem that can bring revenue and people are willing to pay for. Then, once you make money and you're in market and bring in money, you can help more people and you can afford to follow your passion projects on the side or even pivot to your passion project. So I think have goals, be consistent, which I think consistency is key, that differentiate the average from the excellent.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. And that's a third show now. We've got lots of shows coming up here, you and me, Nadia. Here.
Sure.
And then don't go at it alone. The last one.
I think if that would be one advice I would have given myself going back years ago. We always think that I can do this because you overcome so much adversity in your life that you have a strong belief that you can do it. But our most expensive currency is our time and our focus. So by teaming up with other people that complement your skill set, that have shared values, shared mission, and so on, you can amplify your impact and help even more people.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you have a chance, don't go alone.
Yeah. I mean, and a good example of that as well is the Founders Sunday group that you're part of running now, which is a wonderful example of a number of people that come together and for no profit or any own gain, are just getting people together. Over 1,000 people now online in the Founders
Yeah.
Sunday group on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
sharing advice, sharing hardships, and just helping each other go forward. I think that's a wonderful example of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, indeed. And to your point there on persistency and also to be self motivated, and also the low number of VC money to female entrepreneurs. My sister, who is an entrepreneur, and this is the true number. She had 151 meetings with VCs before she got funded.
Yeah.
151 meetings before she got funded.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would have quit after 51 meetings, or most people quit
Exactly.
after one meeting. Many people quit after like two meetings. Oh, they said no, nobody wants me. But 151 meetings later,
Exactly.
so
Yeah. It takes persistence and grit.
it
Stick
does,
with
it
it.
does.
Yeah.
This is the world's fastest half an hour. Innovation Fika with Donny, my innovation coffee break. It's actually almost 3 o'clock. We have 2 minutes on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And ending off here, thank you so much, Nadia, for this very, very, very brief and very short, but extremely informative half an hour.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining me. We have to schedule more shows, you and me, because we have
I
so
think
much more to
so.
talk
I
about.
think I think we should do it. Let's go for it.
We have so much more to talk about. We can pick any of the subjects that we touched upon here, and we can spend a whole half an hour talking only about that.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I will say thank you so very much for getting up in the morning and throwing the kids off to school and jumping on the call. I'll say thank you to everybody watching. Wonderful to see you all online again. Thank you, Yash. And also good to see you, Harvey. Nice to meet you. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. As always, Innovation Fika every Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. Swedish, 8:30 Chicago. What is that? Is it what time zone is that? Is that
It's
Central? No, what?
Eastern Chicago. I think it's Central. Where I'm
Yeah, Central.
at, yeah, in Ann Arbor is Eastern Standard
Okay.
Time.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you online, and I will see everybody else as well online and next week as well. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everybody.